Hello, everybody. Welcome again to a really cool session again that I'm about to introduce. I'm actually going to read our next presenter who's delivering our inaugural keynote for this conference. So Brigadier General Claude K. Tudor Jr. is the Director of the Air Force Resilience under the Deputy Chief of Staff for Manpower, Personnel, and Services, headquarters in the U.S. Air Force Base in Arlington, Virginia. He is responsible for providing strategic solutions that maximize resilience and normalize help-seeking behavior as strength for delivering the most effective prevention and response to interpersonal and self-directed violence through engaging airmen and their families early and pushing professionals to help our airmen in their units. Brigadier General Tudor was born in Cape Canaveral, Florida, and grew up in Merritt Island, Florida. He was commissioned through the ROTC program at Troy State University, Alabama, and has spent the majority of his career in special operations, ground combat assignments, deploying extensively. So that is his official introduction, and there's a lot more if you just research him and the amazing program. But again, I said this earlier, everyone in this event is very special, obviously, all the speakers. And so they all have a special place, whether it's to my heart or other speakers' hearts or other collaborators who brought some people who I might not have met yet. But what I really love about this presentation about to hear and just the thoughts is that mental wellness is something from both the top of our nation's leadership, and not politically speaking, I'm talking about just everyone who is in charge of policies from a health standpoint. Mental wellness is now something that is on a priority. And hearing from this individual who's on such a high ranking kind of an individual and just working on initiatives throughout the U.S. Air Force and related military branches. And of course, this on the connecting with the civilian side, which is how I got to meet General Claude. It's just truly mind blowing. So I'm going to give General Claude the mic, and then we're going to get started. Thanks.
Yeah, hey Ash, how you doing? So, hey, Ash, thanks for having me on. I'm humbled to be on the same platform amongst these other experts from across so many different enterprises. Your choice of topics is so relevant and timely for us to cover with the holidays coming up and all the other national challenges we face. So thanks again for allowing me just to be a small part of this as we dive into investing in mental wellness. If you don't mind, I'm just going to kind of talk through some things, and then I'll open for any questions at the end, unless you want to kind of drive in a different direction. I'll pause there for any questions from you, Ash.
Sounds great.
Okay. Hey, so, resilience is the ability to adapt and recover after a challenge or stress, but resilience is larger than just dealing with stress. Resilient people have a strong sense of well-being and purpose. Resilient people also have resources that can help them when needed. They may have friends or family who can provide support, or they may be able to draw on their own strengths. It's important to remember that resilience is not only focused on, trauma or adversity, nor is resilience simply being happy. It is not something you either have or don't have. In fact, resilience involves skills that anyone can learn. Like so many of my colleagues who you'll hear from later, what we do is a passion. And sometimes it's also personal. And my story is absolutely, no different. From growing up in a small town where the community invested heavily in each of us so that we had every opportunity to be successful, but also realized that we were just part of the larger community's success. We call it island style. Going to college, meeting the love of my life, getting married while I was still in school. I believe that alone is a test in anyone's mental well-being, and resilience. Another key event that led me here, was a chance meeting with the chaplain of the Air Commando Association while I was still in college. This was Dr. Charlie Jones, who was a Vietnam veteran and a plank holder of the modern day combat control teams and special tactics enterprise. It was this chance meeting that changed the entire trajectory of my career, which landed me in this position as the Air Force Director of Resilience. You see, I'm not a personnelist, nor am I a psychologist. I grew up in the Air Force Special Operations Command, family of air commandos, where we live by 5 special operations truths. Humans are more important than hardware. Quality is better than quantity. Special operations forces cannot be mass produced. Competent special operations forces cannot be created after an emergency occurs. And most special operations missions require non-special operations forces assistance. These 5 truths have been a basic guide for special operations forces when conducting daily activities, and each one of these could be a much longer discussion all by themselves. I just want to highlight that first soft truth. Humans are more important than hardware. People, not equipment, make that critical difference. The right people, highly trained and working as a team, will accomplish the mission with the equipment available. On the other hand, the best equipment in the world cannot compensate for the lack of the right people. If we don't take care of our forces, and I will add families into this also, we will never have units at the ready, nor forces or components lethal to meet the needs of our nation when called upon. This is equally important as we prepare for a different type of warfare than what we have faced over the last 19 years. From the Air Force lens, how do we continue to be the force of choice as an employer, while also returning our forces and families back from military service as good, if not better than when they arrived? This is where I really want to start diving into the leadership aspect of mental wellness and resilience, or what I like to call optimizing human performance. As a leader, regardless of what enterprise you're in, we all too often are focused on achieving results, goals, targets, profits, or whatever your metrics are that potentially drive your organization. You'll also be in stressful positions where you have to make critical and sometimes life-altering decisions, and sometimes without having all the data. This can be very hard on leaders and their families. For most of us, as we've earned higher ranks or positions, it comes with greater responsibilities and less outlets to share in our challenges, successes, or the pressure of the charge that you have as a leader. But you're a leader, and you still need to lead the team, the business, organization, which can be from very small numbers to thousands of people. And you want this team to be performing at its highest levels. You'll need to work through the obstacles and turn them into opportunities. You can do this through human performance optimization. In the areas of mental wellness and resilience, you, your team, the organization, and your family will be better for it. You can still lead with empathy, compassion, character, and grace, all while still maintaining good order and discipline across the organization. Let's just take the current COVID-19 challenge as a quick discussion. In this operating environment, leaders need to proactively guide and encourage teams and families to be resilient so they can emerge from this crisis stronger. A couple points to think about. Express empathy and compassion for the upheaval your team and families are currently experiencing. Do you know who's isolated? Who's around a toxic partner 24/7? Who is under the stress of disciplinary action or investigation? Or who is now juggling the responsibilities of a full-time teacher, coach, clergy, caregiver, house maintainer, etc., all with still having their work on top of that? Help your team understand how to stay socially connected, but physically distanced. Ensure the team that you are available. Encourage them to seek help in the stressful situation they may be in. And as you work through this good order and discipline challenge, remember to think about the current environment and what we have done to help insulate our teams and provide servant leadership without piling onto an already stressful situation. Another thing to think about is prioritization. Prioritization is more important than ever right now. COVID-19 is causing a flurry of urgent issues across what seems like an innumerable front. Help your team zero in on the most important or pressing issues. Try to relax the demands on your team where you can while still maintaining good order and discipline. You'll have some that are striving and some who are struggling to get through today, and some who may be even struggling to get through the next few minutes. Have grace, empathy, and compassion, and help where you can to balance the immediate needs with the operational or the strategic efforts to maintain, in my case, that lethal force. Resilience during a national crisis isn't just about bouncing back to the status quo. To sustain resilience in this COVID-19 environment, leaders need to over-communicate, increase their monitoring of the circumstances and needs of their people. Your servant leadership, flexibility, and dedication to ensuring each teammate feels a sense of purpose and belonging can help your team stay connected and strengthen its resilience and mental wellness through this challenging time. As leaders, though, you will become focused on taking care of the team. You become a caregiver. The question all too often is who takes care of you? For example, during my previous posting, I was a leader of an organization that was geographically globally separated across 9 different locations. On day 3 of my job, we had a triple murder suicide. No matter how much you think you are ready to deal with that, it will test you to the core, and it will challenge your own resiliency and mental wellness. And you can't do it alone. Even with all the other helping agencies and support, you'll need to practice mindfulness, to be in the moment and act with purpose. No, this doesn't mean you have to meditate, but that may be one of your tools. I found sometimes just taking deep breaths and focusing on my own current situation allowed me to respond to life's challenges instead of reacting to them. This awareness has also allowed me to enjoy the here and the now much better and boost my own resiliency, ultimately giving me that headspace to more clearly look at the future issues. I can't stress the importance of the leadership teams at all levels to focus on these key skills of mindfulness and resiliency as they continue to optimize human performance. If you don't, you risk so much more than just failure of meeting the goals, profit margins, or metrics for that month, quarter, or year. You can start a downward spiral that will quickly eat away at your ability to maintain the trust and confidence of your team and your leadership. But that's not the end of it. Your health will also start to crumble. And at some point, all of these things will start to feed off of each other and just accelerate the problem. The Air Force recognizes this, and our leadership has been actively involved to keep us in a continuous process improvement posture. One of the many things we have done is work with Mark Rowland, who you'll hear from later, a man of many talents who's been instrumental in helping us drive towards developing a prototype capability that we're looking to be a key center of gravity for all these resilience challenges, at the installation level. So we brought in academia, industry, and anyone else with capability or ideas on how to help us provide near-time real intelligence of the installation's resilience posture or other areas that need attention. This way, that command team at the installation can quickly apply human or physical resources to solve the challenges and continue to optimize human performance. So just as the Department of Defense is looking at joint all-domain command and control, we've been looking at that same model for human operations, only bringing in all-domain command and control to help us bring that academia, industry, our forces, and our families together to accelerate care and support network operations. I've mentioned families a lot. We see them as one of the most underutilized resources we have in this human operations network. Just since the start of COVID, we've been able to rapidly field 2 very key innovative tools, the Spouse Resilience Toolkit and the Family Suicide Prevention Training. Both are groundbreaking and getting very good reviews from the field. We also have totally reconstructed our organization to include a strategic partnership division to continue this all-domain work with both our key stakeholders and strategic partners. A research analysis and development division which proposes and leads projects to develop and implement evidence-based programs and activities while identifying research gaps and seams for additional projects across the full spectrum of violence prevention and human performance optimization. We have a policy division which continues to assess and align our mission and strategy with developing plans for implementation of Air Force goals and priorities through policies. Lastly, we work in concert with the Air Force Personnel Center to develop and execute human operations and training requirements. So in this increasingly complex and fast-paced world, organizations must develop strategies to enhance or optimize human performance in order to achieve their goals. This is especially true in the military, where highly skilled and competent personnel are needed. And because of the lengthy training requirements and physical constraints, getting the most out of existing personnel is critical to mission success. However, this cannot be accomplished without building and implementing a holistic approach to address the pressure on the forces and the families. We must continue to identify and implement innovative and value-added solutions across the enterprise to optimize human performance and give our forces and families back to society better than when they arrived. Most of this falls squarely on the shoulders of leaders. And though this is a fairly congested space, as a student of leadership with a passion for developing people and teams, strategic thinking, organizational culture change, and complex problem solving, we still have lots of room to grow as leaders, to understand the importance of the total force fitness domains of physical, environmental, medical, dental, nutritional, spiritual, psychological, behavioral, and social fitness as a framework designed to keep us resilient and flourishing in the current environment we live in and work, both at home and abroad. So Ash, I want to thank everybody here for listening and for being involved in this. We must continue to invest in mental wellness for our teammates and our families. And so I look forward to following exchanges and dialogues on how we all can do this better. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we go into this, let's just share a couple takeaways that this event, this talk, I should say, we got. One is, General Claude talked about resilience. General Claude talked about the idea that, it's not something that you have to make complicated. And believe me, I am someone, and when I first jumped into mindfulness, I thought, oh, I have to meditate an hour every day, or I have to do something every day that's, quasi textbook mindful. No, it's simply just being present, being aware, and finding situations where you are, instead of being in the driver's seat, they call that fight or flight mode, you're taking a step back. Would you agree, Claude, that in your experience that sometimes taking a step back can help alleviate future kind of issues and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I talked about, just having that ability sometimes to take that deep breath and, being able to respond versus react to the situation. Sometimes just, maybe your tool is meditation, but for me, sometimes, again, it's just taking that deep breath to, kind of reset my own gyros, so to speak, so that as I'm dealing with the issue, I can remain calm and cool. And then also by remaining calm and cool, I'm not inducing even increased stress on the teammates that I'm working around. So it's really important just to, work through that mental wellness and your resilience to, not only support yourself, but make sure you're supporting your teammates.
I think another question, I actually got some questions texted during your talk. One question was, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to look into AFWorks. I'm so glad to hear about this. But outside of that, what is a top level theme around mental wellness that me and other entrepreneurs who are in the space should look into?
It's a very congested space out there, and there are lots and lots of fantastic apps. And, as we try to look at this this IT digital strategy, if you will, for mental wellness and resilience, the big thing for me right now, from the department's perspective, is to make sure that we're taking care of our forces and our families first and foremost. And so whatever we can do in that space is absolutely important. And I would say that as we start to look at that and continue to drive through, whether it's an app or whatever it is, as you're working through these phases or steps of resiliency or mental wellness, at some point, if you're in that much duress or stress, do you have the ability to, almost hit the panic button, so to speak, and reach out and touch to a live human, and have that interaction where it's not AI, it's not kind of pre-recorded things, but to be able to work through the evolution of getting to a human if you have to. But also have the outlets of mindfulness and some of the other resilience tools or toolkits that are out there to help people deal with stress, maybe at different levels that they're dealing with.
Okay. I got one more question, actually. I'm looking at my phone. That's why I'm reading this. They had asked, as someone who is exposed to mental wellness situations at work, is there any books or programs that you have used in your own research and study to help you become a more effective leader?
there's so much material out there. Like I say, it's a very congested space. Um, I use some of our own apps that we've got on our website. So we've got our own resilience website, um, and so I use a lot of that. I really can't give you one specific book or one specific, because I like to pull different pieces and parts from each one of them to kind of personalize my own. A matter of fact, the spouse resilience toolkit, it's not just for our spouses. Anybody can get in there and look at that, and you can kind of target different things, whether it's the mindfulness, whether it's physical, nutrition, any one of those domains, if you will.
Okay. We got one last question before we take a break in a few minutes before our upcoming conversation on military capital. This is, what are specific mental wellness issues that you are seeing right now in the military? And I think I understand why they're asking this. So a lot of our attendees are not serving. A lot of our attendees some of them are being exposed for the first time to some of the topics you're talking about in the world that you reside in. So the more generic or the more clear you can sound, that would be appreciated on this.
Yeah, absolutely, Ash. And so, the challenges that we face right now, it's not really different than what's going on across the nation. One of the key things that I deal with on a routine and daily basis is the suicide numbers. It's very challenging. A lot of our forces and families are dealing with relationship challenges and issues, and as we look at the other challenges, or the challenge of COVID-19, a lot of our forces and families already have some existing challenges. Again, whether it's financial, personal relationships, those type of things. I look at COVID and what's going on across the nation. That seems to be an accelerant to some of these challenges. And until we can, drive home, some of these mental wellness capabilities or factors, and increase the resilience and increase their mental wellness, and really allow them to understand that, yes, they're in crisis, they're dealing with it today, but they can get through that, and they can get through that and become even stronger. That's one of the biggest things that that I deal with on a routine basis. And as we continue to start to grow into the rest of the interpersonal self-directed violence, which a lot of people don't know what that is, but it's kind of, as you start to deal with child maltreatment, workplace violence, kind of pick a violence. We're also starting to dive into that a lot deeper, and how do we protect, and how do we create that safe space so that leaders and the followers, down to the lowest levels, feel safe, that they can actually have those conversations, and that they're being heard, and that you're actually listening to what they're saying. So never pass up the opportunity to mentor and to listen to what the people are saying, and try to help them, solve the challenge that they're in by providing them really meaningful inputs back. Just don't tell them what to do, but provide them with that meaningful impact. And you never know, just by taking that time with them, how you could have just helped them through potentially a catastrophic event.
Okay. Well, Claude, thank you again, sir. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to connecting you with future attendees who might have other questions, and keep up the good fight, sir. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely, Ash. And again, I can't thank you enough for hosting this, and for all the other experts that are going to come on. I personally know Mark from the experience that we had at AFWork, and doing the research on some of your other guests. So to all the people listening out there, investing in mental wellness, it's not just personal investment. It's your time, it's your energy, and it's taking care of other people. So again, just thank you so much for allowing me just to be a small part of this and kick this off. And I look forward to what comes out of this, and how we can continue to integrate a lot of either the lessons learned or the applications into what we do as a larger force. So just thank you so much, Ash, for what you're doing.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, everyone, we're going to start a quick break, and in a few minutes, we're going to actually start our military capital panel, which will be in about 8 minutes from now. And we can't wait to get started with that. So everyone, take a quick break, and then we'll jump back at 8 minutes. Thanks.